My name is Patrick, but you can call me 26. And what we're going to do today is we're going to continue building our app, right? So what we have done so far in the first section is we built out the, let's just run it. Okay, give it a second for it to run. And what we did is we built out the pages that are going to welcome the user the first time they launch our app. And it's just basically going to tell them what they can expect, right? It's sort of the intro, a sort of short intro into our app. So this is what we built, right? So you can flip through the pages and eventually you get to this page, right? Which is going to be our login controller. Now this login controller is supposed to connect to other various pages. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow our user to log in with their preferred method of choice. There are going to be three options. You could either log in with your email, your password, your email and password, Google, and of course, if you put Google, it's a requirement by Apple that you also put Apple as one of the options that you can use to log in, right? So let me just quickly go over what our app is going to look like. And our app is going to look like this, right? So we have the login page. We have here, you can enter the email, the password, and hit login. And there's going to be some animation, of course, on this. Then you're going to have the forgot your password button, which will lead you to a page where in case you have forgotten your password, you can access. Then you're going to have sign in with Apple, and then you're going to have Google sign in, right? And after that, you're going to have this button where if you don't have an account, you're going to be able to register, right? So if you don't have an account, you can hit this button and you're going to go to the register page and you can register there. We're going to assume that a user who gets to this page is a repeat user, right? He has done this before. So that's why we're going to present the login page first. And from there, you can go to the forgot password and register. And also you have the options of the sign in with Apple and Google sign in. Currently, we're just going to do the UI. Then later on, after we're done completely with most of the UI, we won't do all the UI throughout the app. We are going to come back and now hook up the functionality, right? So that's something we can look forward to. Now, the first thing we're going to do in this section is we're going to create a layer, a background layer that animates, right? So this layer is not just going to be like this. It's going to be two colors, switching between two colors, right? And we want it to be available on all our pages. So I'm sure you know what that means. That means that it's available on all our UI controllers, right? UI view controllers. So what we want to do is come to our extensions and for our UI view controller, right? Here, what we want to do is we want to create a function. And this function is just going to be called something like configure gradient. And that's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. As the name suggests, let's give ourselves a bit more real estate. Come here. And this is just going to be let gradient. And the gradient is going to be CA gradient layer like so. Then we come here and we say gradient dot frame, and the frame is going to be self dot view dot bounds like so. Then we're going to say gradient dot start point, and this is going to be CG point, and we just want it to start from the very top, so we could have 0 and 0 here. And then we come here and we say gradient dot endpoint, and this is going to be CG point, and we have X, and this is going to be 150 by, okay, 150, not the text, but 150 by 150, right? Then we're going to come here, and these are going to be the two colors that we are most interested in, right? So, and when you're selecting colors here, because it's going to be on the layer, we have to use core graphic color, right? So how you do that, which is common in what you do with gradients, right? So we say gradient, and this is just going to be gradient dot colors, and this requires an array. So you could come here and we say UI color like so dot system purple. I'm going to use system purple. Pick two colors you like and then play around. What you should do is try and make it as attractive to your eyes as possible, right? This is going to be CG color, and then you're going to have UI color dot system pink like so dot core graphic color, right? So that's done. So we have those two. Now the next thing we're going to have is we're going to create an animation, right? So we're going to come here and we say, let's roll up and say what we want is going to be let animation, and the animation is just going to be CA basic animation. The key path is going to be colors like so, and what we want is going to be animation dot from value is going to be gradient colors, gradient dot colors. Then we say animation dot to value, and this is going to be the opposite, like we want it to go back and forth. So we say gradient dot colors dot reverse, right? Dot reverse. Okay, I can't see it. Reverse, right? Dot reverse, like so. Then we want the duration. Now this is where you play it by eye and get something that you like to use. So you say animation dot duration, and this is going to be something like, we say 2.5. That's how long it's going to take. Then we say animation dot auto reverses, which is going to be a boolean, and this is going to be true. And we want the repeat count. We say animation dot repeat count, and this is going to be dot infinity, right? And then we say gradient dot add, and what we want to add is going to be the animation, like so, and the key is going to be nil, and we need to add this animation to the view, right? So we say self, okay, spell it correctly, self dot view dot layer dot add sublayer, and the sublayer in question is just going to be the gradient, right? So that's going to be that. And basically let's try running this, right, and see what it looks like. And if we run this, we should get, presumably if everything goes according to plan, oh, we should get nothing, right? Because we haven't called it, right? We need to call it. So what we do is we come to our login controller, and in our login controller, instead of this view.background color, we could come here and we call a function called configure gradient, right? So if we do this and then we try running it now, presumably, if we flip through, we should see it, right? Let's go back. And now we have this colors, and you will notice if you look at the screen that the color does change, right? So it comes from, it's supposed to be pink, but in my eyes, there's a point where it gets to, it looks like it's red, right? So these are going to be the colors, and they're going to be, okay, I wouldn't say too subtle, but they are definitely going to be there. If you look at them, you're definitely going to see them, right? So that is actually the color there. And if you compare it to what you're trying to do, right? This is maybe the color at some point. It's going to look like this, right? So the color at some point is going to look like this. So these are the colors that you're looking for. And now let's figure out how we can put the other elements on the screen that you can see. Let's continue. Now what we want to do is we want to create this custom text field, right? Now this custom text field is just going to be a text field, and we're going to use the same for the password and the email, right? And we're going to use it, I think, in all the pages or thereabouts, right? So what we'd like to do first is we want to jump direct to the view controller, that the login controller that we see, and so that we can use that. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to jump into the login controller, make sure that we don't have to flip through all the pages to get to where we're working on, right? So we're just going to do that. Then after that, what you're going to do is we're going to build this. And if I can describe it, it's made up of a couple of things. It's made up of a text field, which is here. And then it has a divider and it has an SF symbol. So you're just going to tell it the SF symbol that you want. And then the SF symbol is going to be shown on the left here, right? So it's going to be placed on the left. So here we're using the mail for the email and the padlock for the password, right? So, but you could use it for, it's sort of something that you could use in many different projects, right? So yeah, so let's have a look at how that is, right? So the first thing we want to do is, you notice that whenever we start, we have to flip through the pages and get to this page, right? So it would make sense if we actually just go there direct, right? So for now, of course, this is going to get a bit convoluted when we have to log in, right? So this is just going to be, for now, login controller, so that when we stop and we start, we get exactly where we want to go, and we do not have to flip through, right? So that's what we want. Now the next thing is, let's come to views, and under views, we're going to create the first view we're going to have, and this is going to be command N. It's going to be a new Swift file. We could make it completely from scratch. I'm going to call this custom text field, so just call yours that, or if you give it a different name, make sure that you keep it, right? Custom text field, like so. Custom text field, hit create, that's going to come. Now what we want to do is maybe give ourselves a bit more real estate and come here and we say class. This is going to be called the custom text field, like so, and it's going to be of type UI text field, right? And I think this is going to complain, right? Cannot find UI text field, and that's because we are not importing UIKit. Now if you import UIKit, you don't need foundation here, so you can just say UIKit. That's Okay, now we're going to create an initializer for this, and this initializer, we're just going to give it the placeholder. Now the placeholder is going to be what you see here, right? The email or the password, right? That's going to be the placeholder, right? So we could come here and we say init, and this is going to be we're going to call the placeholder here. Come here and we say placeholder. I'm trying to think whether the H should be capitalized in placeholder, but let's just leave it like that. String, and then we need to call the super, of course. So we come here and we say super dot init, like so. The frame is going to be dot 0, like so. And what we want is going to be the border style. The border style is going to be dot none, right? Then we say we want the font. What's the font that we want? We want the UI font. Now this is just stuff you figure out something you like, right? System font of size, and it's going to be 18 in our case. Then we're going to tell it a bit about some of the things, the functionality we want it to have, right? It's going to be auto correction type, and we don't want that, so we say dot no. Then we want auto capitalization type, and this we want dot none, right? I wonder why this is auto correction is dot no, but this is dot none, which is yeah, it's a bit different. But the next thing we could do is we could hit this button. It requires us, because we're not using the storyboard, we need to hit this, that we can tell it that we're not using the storyboard. So hit that, take care of that. Now the next thing we want is a few aesthetic styles we could have, which is going to be keyboard appearance, and this one we want it to be, we could say dot dark, like so. Then we're going to say keyboard type. You could change, of course, keyboard type. This is going to be default to dot email address. Then we're going to say tint color. This is going to be dot white, like so. Then we're going to say attributed placeholder. This is going to be ns attributed string, like so. And the string in question is going to be our placeholder, which is going to be passed in, of course. And then the attributes are going to be this dictionary, and this dictionary is going to have dot foreground color, and the foreground color here is going to be UI color dot white, like so, right? So that's basically it. And the next thing we might want to do is we would like to put in the text field container, which is going to contain this, right? So let's do that. Let's come here, create a new view, come here, hit Command N, and this is going to be a new Swift file. Hit that. This is going to be called text field container, or whatever you want to call it, right? Hit that. And what we could do here is we could just maybe give it a name. Come here, say class. This is going to be text field container, like so. It's going to be a type of UI view. It's going to complain. I'm sure you know why. We need to import UIKit. I wonder why I'm speaking in such sing-song, but it's fine. What we're going to have is going to be init. Now this is going to be the container that is going to contain the text field that we just created. Now this is where our SF symbol is going to live, right? So because you're just going to put the SF symbol next to a text field, right? So we have init, like so. And what we're going to have is we're going to pass in the image, which is going to be a type string, like so. Then we're going to have the text field and the text field, like so, and this is going to be UI text field, like so. And what are we going to have in here? We're going to call the super, so we say super dot init. The frame here we're going to say dot 0, like so. Then the next is going to be we're going to call our set height function. Of course, we need to appease the storyboard gods. Hit that, that's taken care of. Give it a height, set height. I'm going to put mine at 40, and then we're going to say let iv is going to be UI image view, like so. That's going to be done. Then we're going to say iv dot image, and this is going to be UI image. We're going to give it a system name. What's the system name? The system name is going to be passed in, so we say image, like so. Then we say iv dot tint color. That's going to be dot white, like so. Then we say let divider, and the divider is just going to be a UI view, like so. Then we're going to say divider dot background color, and this is going to be dot white, like so. and then we say add subview. And what's going to be the subview? The subview is going to be, we're going to add the IV, then we're going to add the text field, then we're going to add the divider, like so, right? And this is not going to work because we're calling add subview, which is the method that is available to our view, but we want add subviews, which is the method that we created that allows us for variadic parameters, right? So I'm sure you remember that. And the next thing is maybe you could figure out how to place everything on the screen, right? Let's do that next. Okay, let's continue. Now you are going to notice that this add subviews is complaining because we are actually spelling it incorrectly. The subviews in our method is actually capital V, right? So it's add subviews like that, right? So that is going to go away. And the next thing we need to do is we need to center the we need to center things and then also anchor them and maybe give them a bit of size, right? So let's come here and we say iv.center y.center center y, like so. Okay, not center t, but center y in view, and the view is just going to be the self, like so. Then we say iv.anchor, and what we want to anchor it is going to be the leading, is going to be the leading anchor, like so. Then we put the padding, leading is going to be 8, right? Then after that we say iv dot set size. This is going to be 30 by 30, so we say 30 and we hit tab, and this is also going to be 30, right? So that is done. Then the next thing we would like to do is put the text field. So we say text field dot center y in view, and that's going to be the self. That is done. What's going to be next? It's going to be text field dot anchor, and what's going to be the anchor here? The anchor is going to be the leading, is going to be the iv dot trailing, like so. The bottom is going to be the bottom anchor, like so. The padding leading is going to be 8, and padding bottom also 8, like so, right? So that's going to be done. And after that we're going to have we need our divider sorted. So we could come here and we say we want our divider, and we just want the divider, and what we want to do with the divider is we want to anchor it. So anchor, and the anchor, it's going to be the leading, is going to be the leading, the bottom is going to be the bottom anchor, the trailing is going to be the trailing anchor, and the padding leading is going to be 8, and maybe you could even add the height. Now I know I've been doing height separately from that, but you could totally just add the height here, right? You could just put this and then give it a height of 1, right? Now we have everything we need to do. We have everything we need to show our particular, what are they called? We have everything to show our particular text field, right? So the next step is to put this on the screen. Okay, let's continue. Now what is left? We have created our text field. We have created the container that they're going to be in. The next thing I think we should do is we should put it on the screen, right? So how do we do that? Well, we come to our login controller, and in our login controller, we need to create a bunch of things. So let's give ourselves a bit more real estate to work. And the first thing is going to be create the text field, right? So we say let email text field, and this is going to be of type UI text field, like so, right? And what we're going to have here is we're going to have the text field. So we say let tf, and tf is going to be our custom text field, right? So custom text field, like so, and the placeholder in question is going to be email, right? And we say tf.content type, tf.text content type, we want this to handle email, so we say text content type, we want this to be email, so we say dot email address, right? Then we need to return it so that it doesn't complain. So we say return TF, right? That is sorted. Now the next thing is going to be the password. So we say let password text field, and this is going to be UI text field, pretty much what we saw up there, slightly different though. Okay, put that, say let TF is just going to be our custom text field. The placeholder now is going to be password, like so. Then we're going to say TF dot text content type. Text content type. What text content type do we want? We want the password, right? Then we say TF dot is secure entry. Is secure entry, and this means that is secure text entry. What this means is that when you're typing the password, you're not going to be seeing the characters, right? So this is going to be true, right? So because that's what it is, right? So we come here and we say return TF. So that is more or less done. And now what we want is going to be we want to put this in the container, right? So that's what we're going to do. Let's continue, right? Now the next thing we want to do is we would like to put the containers in place, right? So let's come here, and the container in question, the first one is going to be the password, the email container. Let's start with the email container. So this is going to be a lazy var, right? This is going to be email, spell it correctly, email container view, and this is going to be of type UI view, like so. And we could come here, do that, add that, come here, and what we want to do is just return text field container, and the image. For the image, let's just come here and pick we need SF symbols. So let's see, SF symbols, come here, pick the SF symbols, right? And what we want for the SF symbol in question is going to be let's say envelope is, yeah, so envelope, right? Envelope.circle.fill, right? That's the name we want. So we come here, pick that, come here, put it as a string, right? So do that, then paste it. And the text field in question is going to be the text field that we just created, right? So this is going to be the email text field, right? And what we want next is going to be the password container view. That's going to be lazy var, right? And the name here is going to be password container view, password container view, like so. And this is going to be a UI view, like so. And what you're going to have here is we could do this, come here, do that. Then here we just want to, we could return it all in one line. Return text field container, and the image in question for the password, we want the lock, right? So come here, do that. Okay, let's just come here, say, okay, spell it correctly, lock, right? So we want lock.circle.fill, lock.circle, let me just, lock.circle, this one, right? So copy this, make sure it's a string, come here, paste it there, like so. Text field, the one we created, password text field, right? So that is more or less done. Now the next thing we would need to do is we need to put all this on the screen. So let's come here, create a function, and this function is going to be called configure UI. What's it going to do? Exactly what you think it's going to do, and we need to call it here. So we could come here and we say configure UI. And what do we want to do in configure UI? We would like to get the text field, so we could put them in a stack, put them together. So we say let text field stack is going to be UI stack view, like so. And this one requires a number of arranged subviews. And what are the arranged subviews we want? We want the email and the password, right? So come here, email container view, then come here and we say we want the password container view. That is done, right? Then come here, and after that we need a comma. Remember, it's an array, so separate the elements in the array by the comma. Then we say text field stack dot axis, and this is going to be vertical, like so. Then we say text field stack dot spacing, make it 8 by 2, so that's 16. Come here, and we probably could add it to the views. So we could come here and say view dot add sub views, and we could save ourselves time by using the one with the variadic parameters. And this is just going to be the text field stack. There are going to be more, and basically that, right? But now we need to anchor it. So let's anchor it. And how do we do that? We come here and we say, okay, let's just say text field stack dot anchor, like so. And anchor, this is going to be the top, is going to be view dot safe area layout guide dot top anchor, like so. The leading is going to be view dot leading anchor. Then we come to trailing. Trailing is going to be view dot trailing anchor, and that should clue you in what we want to do. We want to put the padding at the top because we are putting 3 of them. We're doing that for padding purposes, right? We probably just need 2. And the padding leading is going to be 32, and the padding trailing is going to be 32, right? You could anchor this with 2 constraints, but you're putting 3 so that we can put the anchor, the padding on the sides, right? So it's going to be even on both sides, the left and the right. So we put 32 on both. And I think we have everything we need to see our particular text fields, right? Let's run it, and hopefully there it is, right? So we have our email and our password, and we could confirm that we can type on them, right? By coming and selecting and typing. You could also test it on a device, right? You could connect your device and test it out and see it on the screen. And then we come to the password, and for the password, it should show us the obscure dots, right? So that we can know that this is secure text field and we can't see, right? So that works. So we have put our text field on the screen, and if we look at the example, you will see that there is some similarity. Of course, this is what it looks like when it doesn't have anything, but when you get rid of everything, that's what it looks like. And when we get rid of the text field, that is done, right? Now the next thing is probably to create the login button, and that's what you're going to do next. Let's continue. Now, where do we leave things off? We left them off when we had our text field on the screen, right? It's taking its sweet time. Okay, we have our text fields, but the next thing we want to build to get now is we want to get this button, right? Now I just decided to make a couple of changes to the button, and how we will do this is we're going to include a sort of, what's it called? Let's include an SF symbol on the button, right? So we'll figure some SF symbol that indicates logging in that we can use. It goes with the theme, right? Because you notice that the sign in with Apple button has an sort of the Apple button. The sign in with Google button has the Google button. Our login button is plain, right? So let us keep everything in sync, or at least try to, right? Now, because this is going to be available on this button is going to be available on the reset page, on the register page, and also on the login page. We could put it on all our view controllers so that we can use it throughout, right? So how we do that is we come to our extensions and go to the view controller, right? And that's going to be that. We could select that, get to the bottom. And what we want is going to be a function, and this one is going to be called create auth button, right? Now, since they're going to be a bit generic, we're just going to be passing them stuff that we want, and then they're going to give us UI button, right? So it's going to be a bunch of stuff, then we get a UI button, right? So what we're going to have is we're going to have a title here, which is going to be of type string. Then we're going to have a selector, and the selector is going to be a selector like so. Then we're going to have the image, which we just decided to include, which is going to be of type string and is going to come from an SF symbol, right? So that is that. It's complaining because we are not returning a button, right? So we're going to have configuration, and we're going to use the configuration that came with iOS, I believe 15, right? So there's this new way of creating buttons that came with iOS 15, which is partly inspired by SwiftUI. That's what you're going to use, right? But you could use the other one. And through this app, we're going to be using different methods. We're going to be using the new, relatively new compared to the other one, that is, this new method and also the old method. So you're going to be using them both, and you're going to see which one you prefer, right? So I don't think there's a performance penalty for using either, right? So basically, let's mix and match. So you're going to say UI button dot configuration dot, there are a few preset values, and we're going to use the filled one, right? So we say configuration dot corner style, and this is going to be large like so. Then we're going to have configuration dot button size, and this one is also going to be large, like so. Then we're going to say configuration dot image, and this is going to be UI image. The system name in question is going to be in particular the image, like so. Then we're going to say configuration dot base background color, and this one is going to be black, like you show. Dot black, like so, right? Then we're going to say configuration dot image padding, and maybe give it a bit of padding. We could say 8, and then we say var container. This is going to be attribute container. Then we come here and we say container dot font. That's going to be dot bold. System font of size, we want it to be 18. Come here, say configuration, or not container, but configuration. Oh no, we want the container actually. Container. No, we have done the container. Let's just go to a new line, right? We're going to have configuration like so, and we want dot attributed title, and this is going to be attributed string, which is just a string with attributed string, and we're going to pass in the title. Let's pass in the title, and the attributes are going to be container, like so. Then we say let button, and button is going to be UI button. The configuration is going to be we could just have the configure. The configuration is going to be the configuration that we created, right? Then we're going to say okay, image padding, we need to put equal space to that. Come here, say button dot add target. What's the target? It's going to be the self, like so. The action is going to be self, like so. Action is going to be selector, like so. For control event, it's going to be dot touch up inside, right? Then we come here and we say button dot configuration configuration update handler. Now what this is going to do is it's going to give us a bit it's going to allow us, when we actually, let's put a comma here, right? This is going to allow us to add all the buttons are going to have animation, right? So we want, when the user presses it, the value is going to shrink by a certain percentage, then it's going to spring up, right? So when you press it, we're going to have, it's going to be, instead of just being like the normal button, it's going to be slightly more exaggerated to add animation to it, right? So we're basically going to, how we're going to do that is by using the transform, right? So if it's highlighted, we're going to reduce the size by about 5%, and when you leave it, it's going to jump back to the original size, right? So that's what this update handler does, right? So we come here, and in the closure, we come and say what we want is going to be button in, and then we come here and we say button dot transform, like so. And this is just going to be, we're going to use a ternary here and say button dot is highlighted. So if it's highlighted, we're going to take the CG affine transform, like so. And what we're going to have is going to be, we want the scale X, right? The scale X. So we're going to reduce the size by 5%. So you could say 0.95. And the Y is also going to be 0.95, like so. And if it's not highlighted, we want it to be the original size, right? So it's going to be identity. The effect of this is that when you hit the button, it's going to shrink by about 5. And when you leave it, it's going to expand to the original size, right? So after that, what we need to do is just come here and we say return, spell it correctly, return the actual button, right? So we do that and we return the actual button, and now we have our button. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how we can actually show this button on the screen. Let's do that next. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how we can put the button on the screen, right? So what that looks like is we come to the login controller, and in the login controller, after our password container, let's create our button. So we come here and we say lazy var, and this is going to be called login button, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And this is going to be the create auth button. The title is going to be let's say the title is going to be login. the selector. Now for the selector, we need to pick something that shows login. I was thinking of doors or for some reason I was thinking of a door or something of the sort, right? This is usually the hardest thing, right? So let's say should a login door be open or closed, right? Yeah, this one seems better. Let's copy this, right? So this is going to be the image is going to be that, right? So that's going to be that. The selector, we need to create a selector, so we could come here and we say hashtag selector, and that's going to be handle sign in. Yeah, handle sign in, right? And we need to come down here where our functions are going to be, say at objective C, and this is going to be func like so, and this one is going to be called handle sign in like so. Come here, and this is going to be print, just tell it to print 1 2 3, right? So that when it's pressed, that's what it's going to call, right? So now we have our button on the screen. What we'd like to do is we're going to bundle it together with other buttons, right? So if we have a look at this, we're going to bundle it, I think, with other things, right? So we need to come to our stack here, and what we want to do is we want to say create a new stack. We say let login stack is going to be UI stack view. The arrange subviews are going to be, what are they going to be? They're going to be the login button like so. And for now, it's going to be the login button. And we're just going to come here and we're going to add the login button, login stack, whatever we call it, login stack like so. And we just need to tell it a couple of things. We need to come here and we say login stack dot axis. The axis is going to be dot, we want it vertical, and then we say login stack dot spacing, and we could say this is going to be 16, right? And where do we add it, right? So we come here, right? Let's do that, right? Come here, put it here, and then that's going to be that. And let's try running it. Let's anchor it on the screen so that we can see it, and then we can proceed from there, right? So we come here and we say login stack, and what we want to do is anchor. And the anchor in question is going to be the top. It's going to be tied to the text field stack. So we say top is going to be text field stack. Top is going to be text field stack. Give it a bit more space. Text field stack dot bottom anchor. So we do that, text field stack dot bottom anchor. Then we're going to have the leading, and the leading is going to be the view dot leading anchor. Then the trailing is going to be the view dot trailing anchor, and the fact that we're putting this 3 should tell you that we're trying to put in padding. That's why we're putting all 3, right? So we say padding at the top. Padding top is going to be 2.4. Then we're going to say padding leading is going to be 3.2. Then we're going to say padding trailing is similarly going to be 3.2, right? So we have top, we have everything, and now if we run this, if everything is as it should be, we should get a result, right? So let's see. There, we have our login button, and our door doesn't look as nice, right? So this is what the animation looks like, right? This is what the animation looks like. And if you want to see the button without the animation, what you could do is you could come back to extensions and comment this out, right? So let's come here, comment this out, and then try running it. And if we try running it, you will see what the animation is not as pronounced, right? You see it's a bit more modest, but we want it to be a bit showy, a bit out there, a bit proud, and we do that, and that is going to mean that this is what it looks like, right? So that's how we make it a bit more clicky. We make the button more clicky. This door here is not particularly okay. Does it? Okay, we could leave the door like that, or we could have the left hand, one door is open and one is closed, right? So essentially yeah, we're going to leave it the door like that, right? But pick something that you like and have it on the screen, and that's going to be that. Now let's proceed from here. Let's continue. Now the next thing we might want to do is let's just run our app, figure out where we are. This is where we are. What we could do next is we want to make sure that we build out let's figure out how to put let's start with this, right? Let's have the navigation button saying login, right? We could put that at the very top there, right? So that's the first thing we want to do. So let's do that. And how we do that is pretty straightforward. We first come to our login controller. Let's go to our login controller. And in our login controller, what we'd want to do is we would want to put the title on it, and we can put the title on the view did load. Okay, where's the view did load? Okay, here, right? So what we want to do here is we want to come here and we say title. Okay, put it in its own line. Title is just going to be something like let's say login, like so. And we want it large. You could put it inline. Inline is where it's at the top of the screen, and we'll be seeing that when we come to I think in about 2 sections we'll be using the inline version, so you'll see that where you have it at the top of the screen with it's at the top of the screen and it's sort of smaller. We want it larger, like you saw it in the image, right? So for that, we come here and we say navigation controller dot navigation bar dot prefers large titles, and this is a boolean, says we set it to true, right? So if we run this, we should see our let's just run this. We should see our title. Okay, we are not seeing it, and the reason for that is because we don't have a navigation controller, right? So in order to see it, we probably need to know to go where our login controller is, and I believe we're showing it either, is it somewhere in the onboarding, right, or among our pages, right? So here we have page 6. We put it as a login controller, and instead of putting it like this, what we could do is we could come and we say let wrapped VC, and wrapped VC is just going to be UI navigation navigation controller, and the root view controller is just going to be page 6, right? So we wrap it in a navigation controller, then we take page 6, and instead of putting page 6 here, we take what we wrapped it under and put it here, right? So what we come here, we do is we put wrapped VC here, right? So what that is going to be is if we run this now, or do we go straight to the login controller? Wait, we go straight to the login controller. So if we want to see it like this, we'd have to switch it back to let's see, let's come here, come to the scene delegate, and what we'd like to do here is put the, before this it was the, I believe, the start page controller, right? Let's put the start page controller here and then run it and then see how that works out. Okay, hit this, and you see now we have a login controller, we have a navigation controller, so we have our login there, right? So our login is more or less set. Now the next thing we would want to do after that is where is our this? Okay, we would like to, we're done with that. What we want next is going to be this too, right? Now one thing you're going to notice is that they look exactly the same. The only difference is, and they're buttons, right? So one is going to send you to the reset page, the other one is going to send you to the register page. So since they're the same, we're going to use them a bunch of places. You know what that calls for, right? That means that we should probably create it in use it as an extension, because you're going to use it a bunch of places, right? It's going to save us, we only need to create it once, use it twice, right? Or however many times we'll choose to use it, right? We could change our mind in the future and decide to use it more. So for that, probably come to the UI view controller. Where does it end? Come here at the bottom. Do this, give ourselves a bit more real estate. And what we want to do is we would like to create a sort of attributed button where we are going to create a title, right? So we come here and we say func attributed button, and it's called attributed button because it's just a button with attributes, right? So that's what Swift calls it, calls them attributes. So it's going to have a first portion, which is going to be a string, and then a bolder version. The second part is going to be bolder, right? So that's where the first and the second comes in, right? Second, which is going to be string, like so. And let me just show you, repeat exactly what you're going to do. So this is going to be the first portion, right? And then the second portion is going to be also a string, but slightly bolder, right? So what we want to do is do that. Then we have the attribute. So we say let att, and att, this is going to be a dictionary, and we're going to have ns attributed string dot key, like so, and it's going to be any, like so, and we can put it now. What that is going to look like is going to be we're going to have dot foreground color, like so, and this color is going to be UI color. You already saw the color, no prizes for guessing what it is. It's going to be white. Then we're going to have the dot font. The font is going to be UI font dot system font of size, and the size is going to be 16, right? That's going to be a dictionary of attributes. Then we say let attributed title, and this is going to be ns mutable mutable ns mutable attributed string, like so. And this is going to be of type, we want a string here, and we want the first section, which is going to be, what's the string going to be? We're just going to get whatever we get passed in, and that's going to be the first, like so. And then we're going to give it a space there, and now we want the attributes, and the attributes are going to be, wouldn't you know it, we need a dictionary of attributed string.key and any, and we have that at att, right? So that's the one that we just created right now. And then we have the bold, so we say let bold attributes, and this is going to be, you guessed it, ns attribute, this is going to be a dictionary, which is going to be ns attributed string dot key, like so. And this is going to be dot key, and then we say any, like so. And this is going to be the dictionary, like so. And what we want, let's come here and we say this is going to be dot foreground color, like so. And this is going to be UI color dot white, like so. And the font is going to be dot font, and this is going to be UI font dot bold system of size, and the size is going to be 18, right? So we have 18, and in case you notice, it actually is slightly larger here, right? So it's going to be reset and register, which we want it in slightly bigger, and we want that, so we want to merge the two. So we could come here and we say set attributed, okay, why isn't that okay, we're not getting this right. Attributed, oh, we need to append it first, right? So we come here, and after that we say attributed title dot append, and what we want to append is an attributed string. So we say ns attributed string in question is going to be string, like so, is going to be second, like so. And the attributes, what the attributes are going to be, it's going to be bold at, like so, right? So we do that, and then we come here and we say set attributed, set attributed title, set at, am I spelling it correctly? Set attributed title, right? So set attributed title, and this is going to be attributed title, and 4 is going to be the normal state, right? So we set that for the normal state, like so. And we set it for the normal, and basically that's what we would want to do, set attributed title, and we set it for the normal state. So that is more or less done. Now, one thing we could do is we could come here, cut this, and put it in the button extension rather, right? So if we come here and we do this, and it's not going to complain about setting an attributed title, right? Now that that is done, we can actually put it to good use and make sure that we can actually see it. And how we do that is, let's go back to our login controller. Now in our login controller, what we'd want to do is, among our various UIs, UI elements, we could create a new UI element, and this particular UI element is going to be called the register screen button, right? So we come here and we say let's register screen button. And what is it going to do? It's going to be a type of UI button, and it's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. And we're going to come here, do this, right? And then you're just going to say let button, and button is going to be of type UI button, like so, and UI button, like so. And the type is going to be, you know the type, right? You know the type is going to be dot system, like so. And then you're going to say button dot attributed button, like so, first and second, first. And we're just going to say don't have an account, question mark, like so. Okay, question mark rather, not greater than sign, but question mark, like so. Hit tab and say register, right? So we have that register, and then it of course expects us to return a button. So we could say here button, and what do we want to the button? We want to add the target, and the target is going to be the self, like so. The action is going to be hashtag selector, like so. This is going to be handle register, like so. For is going to be dot touch up inside, and then we're just going to say return it, right? So we just return the button. So we do that. That's going to be everything that we need. Okay, it's going to complain because, and the reason it's complaining is because we don't have handle register. So we need to come down here, say at Objective-C func, and this is going to be called handle register, and that is going to be handle register. What's it going to do? It's going to come here, and for now it's just going to print registered, right? Registered. So it's just going to print registered for now, right? So the next thing we need to do is probably figure out where we're going to show it. And where we're going to show it is, we could show it in the, well, we do have a couple of stacks here, right? So we could come here, and what we'd want to do is just get our register, probably put it somewhere here, and our subviews, and then figure out where to put it, right? So where we're going to have it is we're going to come here and say register screen button. That's what it's called. So it's now among our subviews, and we figure out where to show it. So we could come here and we say register screen button, like so, and we're going to anchor it. And where we're going to anchor it, you're going to anchor it. The bottom is, oh no, it's going to be bottom, like so. The bottom is going to be the view dot say serial layer guide, like so. The bottom anchor, like so, right? The padding at the bottom, padding bottom is going to be 8, like so. And after that, let's give it a look first. Let's give it a look, make sure it works. And if it does, we can continue from there, right? So let's come here and see this. Okay, it's here, and we see registered, but you can see our problem already, right? So what we would need to do is we would need to center it. So let's come here and we say register screen button dot center x in view, and the view is just going to be the view, right? So we do that, it's going to be centered. Let's do that, let's run it. Okay, come back here, and now we have that, and now we have registered, right? Now while we're at it, we could also do the other one, right? What's the name of the other one? The other one is called the forgot your password reset, right? So how we do that is, it looks pretty much like this. So you should actually take it as, I should give you this as a challenge. What you should do is try and get the forgot password, right? So we have register button. What we would want is forgot your password, and it looks, I'd say 90% like this. It actually looks exactly like this. The difference is the words and the selector, the function that it's going to call, is different here, but it looks exactly the same. So I'm going to give you a second to figure it out. I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to show you how I would do it. It's pretty straightforward, exactly like this. Change the button, pause the video, go back to the image and look at what it looks like, or I could just show you on the screen. This is what it should look like. Forgot your password, question mark, reset, right? So you should just follow this and then see it on the screen. So I'm going to count to 5, then I'm going to show you how I would do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's create our let forget password button, right? So we come here and we say let forgot. Is it forgot or I think it should be forgot, right? Password, forgot past tense rather. Password button, and it's going to be exactly the same, of type UI button, and this is going to be that. And we are going to come here and we're going to say let bt is going to be UI button. The type is going to be dot system, like so, and then we're going to say button bt rather dot attributed button. First is going to be, what's the first going to be? Forgot your password, like so, question mark. And the second one is going to be called reset, right? Now where we're going to put it, probably we need to come here and we say after that bt dot add target, bt dot add target, and the target is going to be the self, like so. Self action is going to be hashtag selector. It doesn't exist yet, so it's going to be handle forgot password. We're going to make it in a bit, and the touch up, the control is going to be dot touch up inside. That is done. We need to return something, right? Return, what do we return? We return bt. So that is sorted, right? And the next thing would be the function, which is going to be, we need to come down here, and it's going to look exactly what you think it's going to look like, right? It's going to be at objective C. Func is going to be handle, what's it called? Handle, we call it handle forgot. Is it handle forgot password? Yeah, handle forgot password, like so. Maybe I've spelled it, I hope I've spelled it correctly. And we are going to say print is going to be forgot for now password, right? So let us see that. I think we got it correct. Now the next thing is to figure out where we're going to put it. And if you look at it, you could put it like anywhere, or you could put it among the stacks, right? So you could put it among the stack, right? So we could put it alongside the login button, and yeah, we could put it in the login button, right? So the login stack has a login button, right? So we could come here, and what we're going to do is login button, after the login button, put a comma, since this is an array, and say forgot password button, right? So if we do that, and remember we're putting the login stack here as our sub view, so it's included, everything is included there. And yeah, basically I think that's it. And if we do everything correctly, we should see something on the screen, right? Okay, come here, see this, right? So hit this, forgot your password, right? Hit this and it's going to be forgot password, and this one is going to be register, right? So basically that's going to be that. And what we could do instead after that is just ensure that when we hit that button, we actually go to the particular page, right? And for that, we would need to create a bunch of view controllers. So we could come to our controllers, hit Command N, and this is going to be a Swift file. We're going to create it from scratch, of course. This one is going to be called forgot password controller, or give it a name that means something to you, right? Hit that, come here. And of course, we want to import UIKit. And if you have UIKit, you get, I think, pretty much everything that is in Foundation, right? So we could come in and say class. This is going to be forgot password controller, like so. This is going to be UI view controller, like so. UI view controller, and we are just going to come here. And what we want is which page has the least? Is there a page that we have a controller that has pretty much nothing, right? So we could come in and we say view did load. Let's put view did load, right? Call the super view did load, and then we come here view dot background color. And what's our color now? It's going to be, let's say it's going to be blue, right? That's going to be blue. And what we need to do is we need to see this when we actually hit the button, right? So we go back to the login controller, go to the login controller, go to the function. The function here is going to be handle forgot password controller, right? And we could come here, ditch that, and we get rid of that. And this is going to be let VC is going to be forgot password controller, this one that we just created. Then come here and we say navigation controller, like so, push view controller. What's that going to be? It's going to be VC animated is going to be true, like so. And then basically that, right? So we now try it out. Let's try it out and see what that looks like. Hopefully we have done everything as it should be. Come here, hit this, and we get the login controller. I really hate this back button, and also this this word next to it. We're going to fix that next, but we have our login controller, right? We're going to create our own custom back button, and you're going to see what that looks like. It's going to be a bit more in my opinion, it's going to look better. You can keep that one. You can keep the chevron left, which is the default version if you want, but I'm going to show you how to create a better one. Now, what I want you to do now, and I'm going to give you 5 seconds to do it, is create register. What are we going to call it? We're going to call it something like register controller, right? Or register account controller. What do we call this? Login controller. Let's just call it register controller, right? I want you to go create a register controller, and then when we hit the registered button, instead of saying print registered, we go to that page, right? So it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to follow what we have done, and that is going to be that, right? So I'm going to give you 5 seconds. So it's going to be called register controller. Follow the steps that we just followed right now, and then you can see it on the screen, right? Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what we're going to do and how we are going to do it, right? So let's come here, and we're going to come here, hit Command N, and this is going to be called this is going to be a Swift file. So this is going to be called register controller. And what's it going to do? Exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to be the register controller. Remember, what we need is UIKit. We probably get everything you need from there. You don't need foundation there, or you could have foundation also if you want, but it's redundant. And what we want is going to be it's going to be called register controller. It's going to help you. This is going to be a type of UI view controller, like so. And we're going to come here. We're going to call view did load, call the super view did load, say view dot background color. The background color is going to be pick a background color that you like. We're going to put red here. Now we want to see it when we press that button, so we're going to come back to login controller. Instead of putting registered like so, we're just going to say here, let, spell it correctly, let vc is going to be whatever you just created, register controller, like so. We're going to call the navigation controller. We want to push the view controller. Push view controller. This is going to be VC. Animation is always good, so you say true, like so. Command S, Command R. Hopefully that reloads and you see it. Let's come here, hit register, and we come to this glorious red page, right? Of course, the pages are not going to be red. We're going to be making changes to them, make them look a bit like this. They're all going to have a background. We made our backgrounds available everywhere. The sort of animated, undulating, multicolored, pretty gradient controller, we're going to have it on both pages, right? But for now, we have done that. We have this blue, gorgeous blue, and we have this gorgeous red, right? Let us continue from there. Let's continue. So this is where we left things at. Yes, now we have this, and you come here. We'll fix the back button in a bit, but let's look at what we're building, right? And you will notice that we have this divider, right? So we have this divider, and how we make this divider is you basically just put 2 lines, right? 2 lines, a word, and then the other line on the other side, right? So it's pretty straightforward. It's a bit tricky to build. You really need to know how to put stuff on the screen, but I'd encourage you to try and build it. And the divider is just going to be like a line, a view where you set the height to something like 1, right? So we set the height to a pixel of 1, and then you put it on either side, and then you put the word or in the middle. About the word or, we're just going to use our convenience initializer for the UI label, right? So we put that in the middle and have the word or, make it 16, and then the font weight is a bit heavy, right? So giving you those instructions, do you think you can build it? Try it out. I will count to 5. I think I've given you everything you need to know. And I'll count to 5, and then you could maybe put it in a new stack where we are going to then put it the Apple button and the Google button, right? So we're going to put it in a new stack with the Apple button and the Google button, right? Afterwards. So just put it in a new stack, call the stack, I don't know, button stack or something like of the sort, right? A name that means something to you. Okay, so, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to do it, right? So you could pause and then come back and continue, right? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it, right? So this is how I do it. I'd come down here, and after the forgot password button, what I'd do is I would create a divider. So we just say let divider, and the divider is going to be a UI view, like so. And what that is going to be that. Then for the divider, like I said, it's going to be 2 UI views. So you could say let div is going to be UI view, like so. And then we're going to have the or label. So we say let or label Okay, am I spelling correctly? Or if you spell it like that, make sure you keep it like that, right? If you call it or label or however you spell it, just make sure you keep track of it. Okay, let's say or label, and this is going to be UI label, like so. UI label, we need the convenience initializer, so it's going to have the one with the text. So the text here is going to be or, like so. The font is going to be dot system font of size. Size is going to be 16, and is going to be 16, and we are going to put comma. Weight is going to be, let's say, heavy, right? Okay, heavy, right? So that's going to be that. That's going to be the word or in the middle. Then we're going to say let divider1, which is going to be UI view, like so. And this is going to be divider1, okay, divider1 dot background color, and what the background color is going to be dot white, like so. Then we say divider1 dot set height. Height is going to be, let's give it a height of 1, right? And then we need to repeat this trick. Let's come here, let's copy this, right? Copy like so, come here, paste. This is going to be divider2, which is going to be that divider2 dot background color, divider2 dot set height, right? So you have two dividers, right, which are going to be exactly the same. Then we could put them in this div. We could say div dot add subviews, the one where we can put variadic parameters, the one that we created, which is going to be or label, like so. Then we're going to have divider1, divider2, right? Now we have everything we need to put our divider on the screen, right? And we're just going to say or label dot center, and center in view. And what's the view? The view is going to be the div, right? So that's going to be done. Then we say divider1 dot center y in view. That's going to be div. And you know, if we do that for 1, we hit command D, we do it for 2, right? But they're just going to be on different sides, right? So that's going to be that. Then we come here, and of course at the end of this we just need to return the div. So we return the div, the container that they're all going to be in. And what we're going to do is say divider1 dot anchor. And what do we want to anchor? The leading is going to be div dot leading anchor, right? Then the trailing is going to be or label, which is in the middle, right? We have centered it smack bang in the middle, right? Or label dot leading anchor, right? Then we say padding leading is going to be 8, padding trailing is going to be 8, right? Then we come here and we're going to do the same for divider2. Come here, we say divider2, and what do we want to do with divider2? We want to put the anchor. What's going to be the anchor? The anchor here is going to be the leading is going to be the or label, which is smack in the middle, dot trailing anchor, right? Divider2 is going to be dot trailing, like so. So spell it correctly, trailing anchor, like so. The trailing is going to be the div dot trailing anchor. Padding leading is going to be 8, padding trailing is going to be 8, right? That is going to be the same, and basically that, right? So what are we going to do after that? We have everything we need for the divider1 and the divider2, and now let's figure out where to put it. So how do we put it? Well, we need to create a button stack, right? So we need to come here after this and say let's button stack, and that's because 2 of the elements on the button stack are going to be buttons, right? This is going to be UI stack view, like so. And what we're going to have is going to have the arrange subviews, right? And you could create a variadic one way you create stack views by just passing in the subviews, right? You could create an extension for that. I'm not going to do it, but you totally could. And let's see, do we put it in the button stack or do we put it in the login stack? We could for now. we're going to have our buttons here, right? We're going to put this, okay, let's just leave it for now. The button stack, let's just comment this out. We're going to put it there. Let's put this in the, let's come here, put a comma here, and then just put the divider, right? So let's put the divider. If we put the divider here and then we try running it, we should see our divider on the screen, presumably, if you've done everything as it should, right? So you have the divider and say or. So you could log in like this, or then you're going to put the buttons, right? So that is done. What we'll need to do now is just put the Apple button, right? So the Apple button, if we have a look at our buttons, right? So this is going to be the Apple button, and the Apple button is it's defined by Apple, so it has to be a certain way, look a certain way, have a certain size, and the requirements for it, right? So the advantage is it helps with the it's a requirement. If you're going to have Google login like we do, where you can log in with Google, you must have Apple login. It's a requirement from some time back, right? I can't remember exactly when. So what we need to do is create the button. Let's put our Apple button, right? Now for our Apple button, we need to import something before we use it, right? So we come here and we say import, and we're going to say authentication services, right? So from the authentication services, now we can use the Apple button. Let's come to the bottom here, and what we want to do is we're going to call our button. We could do a bit of customization, right? There are a few options you could play around with it, but there are some things that it's the wording is required, right? This is going to be AS authorization Apple ID button, right? It's going to be of type that. Come here, do this, come here, do that, come here, say let BT is going to be AS authorization Apple button, and that's going to be that, right? So authorization button type, and the type here is going to be, we want the default dot. You could see all the various versions. We're just going to use the detail. You could say continue with Apple, sign in with Apple, sign up with Apple, right? We're just going to use the default, right? And then the authorization button style, there's white, black, okay, and I guess white outline also, right? So we're just going to go with the black, right? All black, everything, right? So, and then what we could do is we could say here bt.add target, and the target is going to be the self, like so. Action is going to be you probably should be aware by now, that's going to be handle Apple sign in, and this is going to be for touch up inside. It doesn't exist yet, and we need to set the height. So we could come here and we say we're going to override. Essentially, when we do this, the height is going to be 44, but we want to set the height to 50, right? Set height, and this is going to be 50, right? So that's going to be that. Just return. Okay, why are we saying button? It should be, we called it BT, right? So you could call it button. If you're calling it button, use button, right? Return BT. So now we have our BT. What we could do, it's going to complain. We could come here and we say at Objective-C func. We're going to fix this when we are later on, right? Like later, much later on, right? Func, this one is going to be called handle, okay, spell it correctly, handle Apple sign in. We're going to come back here a while from now, right? A couple of videos. We need to go around the world and back again. Let's just finish most of the UI, then come back here, like I've said. And what we're going to do here is just print Apple, right? So that is more or less done, I think. And what we need to do is put it on our let's put it on our screen, right? So what we want to do is come here, have the button stack, command, and remove that. Come here, it's going to have the Apple and the Google, right? Apple button, like so. And what we want to do is, after that, come here. We want the button stack, which is going to be the last thing that appears here. And what do we want after the button stack? After the button stack, we need to put it on the screen, right? So we come here and we say button stack dot anchor. What do we want to anchor here? We come and we say we want to anchor it. Let's see. Top is going to be the login stack dot bottom anchor, like so. Then we come here. The leading is going to be view dot leading anchor, like so. View dot trailing, right? Padding at the top 24, and padding leading 32, and padding trailing. Basically that's how we've been doing it. 32 on both sides, right? But the top is where it was different. That's why we put 24. That's why we're putting 3, right? We've done this a bunch of times, so we should just Command S, Command R, see what that looks like. Hopefully everything is as it should be. Come here, do this, and we have our sign in with button Apple, right? And when we hit this button, we do get Apple. So our sign in with Apple button is there. You could compare it. It looks like a bit like that, right? So the next thing to do is figure out how to put the sign in with Google, or Google sign in button. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we would need to have our Google sign in, right? So let's have our Google sign in. First thing we want to do is we would like to we'd get the Google icon button. So get the Google icon button, drag it in, put it here, right? So we have our Google icon button. You can get that just online, the Google icon button, right? So we have that included. You can check over on Patreon and you can get anything I mentioned will be in the code in Patreon, right? Just have a look at that and you can see it, right? So we have our Google icon button, and the next thing would be to actually get it running on the screen, right? So we come to the login controller, and we want, after our Apple button, what we want to do is configure the Google button, right? So we come here and we say, or we could say just let Google button, and this is going to be UI button. And now you could use either way of creating a button, right? Either would work. I'm going to use the newer version. Show you how you do it on the newer version. I've shown you the old version. I've used both, so you can use either interchangeably, right? Configuration. So we say configuration, and this is going to be UI button dot configuration dot filled, right? So we have UI that filled, and we say configuration dot corner style. This is going to be dot large, like so. Configuration dot base background color. This is going to be dot black, like so. Then we come here and we say configuration dot image, and this is going to be UI image. Then you tell it the name of whatever you called it, right? So this is going to be named like so. This is going to be icon dash Google, right? So that's done. Then we say configuration dot image padding, which is going to be 16. Then we have that, right? Then we come here and we say var container, okay, container, and var container is just going to be attributed container, like so, attribute container rather. And we say container dot font, and this is going to be UI font dot bold font system of, and that's going to be 18, right? So we have 18 like so, and then we say configuration dot attributed title, and this is going to be attributed, okay, attributed string. What's the string? Google, like so. Google sign dash in, like so, comma. Attributes are going to be the container, right? We just created the attributes up here. And then we say let button is going to be a UI button, like so. And the configuration is going to be the configuration, like so. And then we're going to say button dot add target self hit tab action is going to be hashtag selector. This is going to be handle Google sign in for dot touch up inside. Okay, that's done. Come here, say button dot set height. We're going to give it 50 equal billing with the Apple button. What we need to do is return it. So we say return. What do we want to return? The button, right? So return button. And you know the drill. Come here. At Objective-C func handle Google sign in, like so. Come here. Print Google, like so. Come to our stack, put a comma, say Google button, like so. And if we have done everything as it should be, well, you're going to see, okay, I see the problem, right? So the button, unless you state explicitly, the button is going to assume that you want it to be horizontally stacked, right? So what you want to do is, after the button stack, come here and say button stack dot axis is going to be dot vertical, and then we say button stack dot spacing is going to be 16, right? So this is what it looks like currently, right? This is what it looks like currently. But if we run it now, the button stack defaults to horizontal, right? So you need to tell it, right? So if you do that, you get our button, that Apple, Google, right? Google. So our Google button is working, our Apple button is set. Let's get to it, right? Let's run things. And when you run things, you're going to see this self here. And the problem is, it's going to suggest a fix. And if you actually hit that fix, the app is going to break, right? So don't reference login.controller. Let me show you an example, right? So if you hit this, come here, say login controller.self, right? Hit this, right? For the Apple button, right? This is a warning. It makes the warning go away. But when you stop it and call it again, it wants you to know which actual instance of the button that called it, right? If you try and fix it like that, and then you come here and you hit the Apple button, the app will break, right? So actually leave the warning as it is if you can, right? Because if you try and fix it, it's actually going to break the app, which might seem counterintuitive. Sometimes the IDE makes suggestions that are not very helpful. So where's the Apple thing, right? So leave it as self. Leave it as self as I left it. You could make a few changes, but it's if you try to fix it with the suggestion by the IDE, it's going to lead to the app breaking, right? Okay. Or of course you could call the primary action another way, right? You could also do that. Either of those is okay. So don't worry about these warnings here. And if you really dislike them, you could hit this. And if you hit this, what it's going to do, it's only going to give you errors, because errors, the button at the very bottom here, errors are what you should be interested in, because errors show you like lapses in logic or stuff that will make your app break, right? But if you try to fix it the way it suggests, you're going to get errors, right? So that is done. Now the next thing to do would probably be to fill out our forgot password controller. This is where we left it. Let's just run this, make sure everything is as it should be. Come here, forgot password. We just come to this blue page, register, the same, right? So what we want to do is we want to make it, and we're going to be retreading stuff we have done before. So we're just going to copy the code. If you want, you could create some functionality that can be used between the 3 pages, right? But what I'm going to do is just copy the code. It does exactly the same thing that we did in login controller. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to login controller. Let's start with forgot password, because it only has one text field, right? So let us come and get where's the view did load. So we come and we go to the view did load, and then we get the color. Make sure that the color is as it should be. So we're going to say configure gradient, like so. So let's just copy configure gradient, come to forgot password controller. We get rid of the blue color, configure the gradient, then we go back. Then what we want to do is maybe get the title, and we prefer large titles. So let's copy this, because it works exactly the same. No need to think too much about it. And this one is going to be called forgot password. We could check that by running this, making sure that everything is as it should be. Come here, see this, hit forgot password, and we find that still looks hideous. We are going to fix it in a bit. Let's go back. What's the next thing? We need configure UI. So let's just copy this, go back, come here, put configure UI, and we need to make it so we say func.configure UI, so it doesn't complain. And then we come here, and then we need the text field, right? So you could come to the very top here. We need the email text field. So we come here and we get the email text field. We copy this, go back to our forgot password controller. We put it up here. It's gonna look good. Go back there. We need the email container view, like so. Come here, copy forgot password controller, come here, do this. That's going to be that. Then we need to come back here, and what's going to be the next thing? The next thing we need to do is we need to see how we put them on the screen, right? So how we put them on the screen is pretty straightforward. In our configure UI, we put this, right? So we could just come here, copy this. Okay, do we really need to put it in a text field stack? You could if you're lazy, but since we're actually working it, let's just come here and add it. Let's come to configure UI and say something like view view dot add views, like that, and the view in question is going to be our particular view. In this case, it's going to be email container view, right? Email container view, which has a text field, right? So we have the email container view, then we want to anchor it. The anchor, let's look at how we did this in the login controller, right? Text field stack, come here, copy this. It's gonna look a bit like that, right? Copy, but we need to push it a bit lower down, right? So we need to come here, push it a bit lower down, come here, and this is going to be email container view, or we could put it in a text field stack with the button, right? So maybe that's one thing we could do, right? So rather than putting them independently, let's put them in, or maybe let's leave it as it is. There are many ways you could put it. Just make sure that you know the reference points and how to do it, right? So we're going to say email container view, view.safe here at the top anchor. That padding at the top is going to be 60. Let's look at what that is. I think it's going to be a bit high, probably because it's going to be the only element. We could put it on the screen a bit lower. So let's come here, hit this, see this is that. Okay, I'm just going to adjust this to 100, make it not 1,000 but 100. Probably be looking at 1,000 when we're displacing a card from the screen, right? So we come here and this is going to be that. That's going to be 100, like so, 32, 32, right? That is everything that we need. What's the next thing that we would like to do? The next thing we would like to do is the actual button. So let's go to the login controller. And how do we make the button here? Well, we did create some method, I believe, and the method is going to have the button. So that's going to be create auth button and this, right? So this is going to be the login button, like so. Copy this, come to the forgot password controller, create that button, and this one should have something like a forgot password. What would that look like? It would look like a question mark, right? Let's say question. You don't have like a sort of question mark, right? Just a big question mark, right? Question, let's just say question, right? So that's going to be question mark bubble, question mark, okay, question mark dot circle, question dot circle dot fill, right? Let's copy that name, put that here, come here, put the question mark here, like so, question mark circle dot fill, like so. Instead of typing this out, let's go back, jump to the handle sign in, jump to definition. Where is handle sign? Okay, where handle register, right? No, handle sign in, right? Here it is, right? So we come here, we copy this, come to the forgot password, put it at the bottom, and it's just going to print 1, 2, 3 again, like so. So that's going to be that. Probably need to put it there. We could say login button, right? We could make sure that we come here and we hit refactor, rename, and this is going to be, instead of login, we're going to call it forgot, right? Forgot button, like so, and we hit rename, and that's going to be that. So now this is here, and then we come and say forgot button dot anchor, like so, and then we say the top is going to be the email container view dot bottom anchor. Padding top is going to be 24, and the rest of this we could actually copy it and then remove that, right? Okay, let's just do it. Padding top is going to be that. Wait, let's put the leading and trailing, right? Leading is going to be the view dot leading anchor. Trailing is going to be the view dot trailing anchor. Padding leading is going to be, let's say 32, padding trailing similarly 32, right? we do that, and I think that's going to be everything. Let's just run this, make sure it does. It should be. Of course, I've seen a problem. I've remembered a problem. Let's just have a look at it, right? You see, question mark login. Shouldn't be that, right? So, and we forgot to put padding top, right? So we come here and we say padding top is going to be 24. Then we put a comma like so, and we just let's put the word. What's the word? Instead of login here, we're just going to say reset, right? So it's going to be reset. We try stopping it and returning and running it again and seeing what that looks like. Come here and forgot your password and question mark reset, right? Okay, I'm trying to think of an SF symbol that communicates forgetting a password, right? So let's say here reset, forget. Okay, I don't know. Get something like okay, that login. Okay, yeah, just get like stuff that looks like SF symbols that you like, right? So that is basically our forgot password sorted out, right? Now the next thing we'd want to do is we need to figure out the register controller, right? Now the register controller looks pretty much like the login controller. In fact, it looks very much like the login controller. So what we would need is the email text field, the password text field, the email container view. We're going to get the user's name a bit later, so that should not bother you. So we probably need this first few things, right? Come here, copy, come to the register, paste. So we've taken the email text field, the password text field, the email container view, the text field container view, and we need the login button is going to be handle sign in, right? Let's come to the login controller. We need the handle sign in, right? Handle sign in is going to be this, right? Come here, copy this, come to the register controller, put it at the bottom. That's going to be that. And here we just need to configure gradient. That is sorted. Come back to the login controller, probably deal with the title. So here it's going to be that, and then we add the configure UI, copy this, come to the register controller, paste that. That's going to be that. That's okay. It's going to complain because we don't have a configure UI, and that's going to be exactly what you think it's going to be, right? Then we come to the login controller. Okay, that's that. Let's go to forgot password controller, like so. Okay, what's the next thing we need to do? No, it's supposed to be register controller. We need to basically get this, the email and the password container view, right? So we create the text field stack. We need that, right? So the only difference is that the login button is going to be here, right? So let's come here, copy this, right? Copy. Remember, if you don't, the text field defaults to horizontal. So always remember that. We forgot it and we saw it, right? So we did that. That is there, but of course we don't have it on the screen. So we could come here and we say view dot add subviews, plural, the one we created that takes variadic, and that's going to be the text field stack, right? So we have that as a text field stack. What's the next thing we need to do? Maybe rename this, right? So let's just come here, refactor, rename. This is going to be called the, oh, we're only using it one place. Let's just call it the register button, like so. Hit rename, and with register we get something with let's see, what's register, like clipboard, right? So this, right? So is there something like this with a circle around it? Okay, we don't have a clipboard with a circle, or I can't see a clipboard with a circle, rather. It might be there, or when you're watching this might be there. So this is going to be, the image here is just going to be the clipboard. So we have that clipboard like so. Text field stack, what's that? I don't think we have put it, like we need to anchor it, right? So the text field stack, let's just come here. It's going to look exactly the same, probably. So we copy this, come back to register, and after this, put that there, right? So what else? Let's just run it, see it as it is, then see if we're making progress or we're going in the correct way. We have the email, the password. We don't have the login button, right? So we're just going to put it here. We could put it in its own text field stack, or we could patch it below the text field stack. And what we could do is we could come to the forgot password here and just copy this, right? It works the same. So copy, come here, register controller, and what you're going to do is for our button, it's called our register button, we're going to anchor it to not the email container view but the text field stack. And if we run this, if we have done everything as it should, we should get something that is a bit better, right? Okay. I know the problem. The problem here is we have forgotten to add it to our view, right? And then you have tried to anchor it. So we come here and we say, so you get that error. You could have a look at that error, right? So you could read it so that you know, like when you get this unable to activate constraint and whatnot, right? That's because you've forgotten to add it, right? And you will be getting it when you're working programmatically. So that's one error you will get. Let's come here. Let's see this. Let's look at this. And now we have our this. It says 1, 2, 3. And we also have our this. It says that, right? Let's look at the concentrate on this, right? So this looks good. The SF symbol right next to the login, right? So we have created all our login page, and basically that's the main thing that we're going to have here, right? Let's proceed from there. Let's continue. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a custom back button, right? So when we run things, like if we come here and we check, you will notice that when you come to the forgot password page, we have this chevron, the usual back button with the word, right? What we want to do is we want to make sure that we do not have this chevron, the usual back button alongside the word, right? We want our own custom back button, and I have an idea on how we could do that, right? So what we'd like to do is how you do that is we want to use it in a bunch of places. So what you do is you come to the app delegate, and after this, the application did finish launching with options, right? Before you say true, what you want to do here is say something like let back button, and the back button is going to be a UI image, like so, image and the system name. Now we come in with the system name, and we want with configuration, and the configuration is going to be the K configuration. Let's put the K configuration, and if you can remember, the K configuration is what we used in our constants, right? That's what we have for the point size and the weight, right? So that we don't have to keep defining that several times over, right? So basically that. And now for the system name, we need something that conveys back. So there are very many things you could pick. I'm going to pick arrow shape. So there's this arrow shape dot turn up dot turn dot up, okay, dot up, like so, dot backward dot turn dot up dot backward dot circle. This one, I think, right? Is it? Let's see. Okay, dot circle dot fill. So either this one or this one. I'm going to go with this one in this case, right? Pick something you like that communicates back, or pick whatever you like is a back button, right? Now what we need to do is we need to show it. So how do we show it, right? We come here and we say UI navigation bar dot appearance dot back indicator image, like so, and this is going to be the back button, right? Back button, like so. Then we have UI navigation bar dot appearance dot back indicator, spell it correctly, back indicator transition mask image. This one, the long one, right? That's the image that you're going to have when you're animating between the button being on the screen and being off the screen, and that we set to the back button, right? So you do that, and if we're right, we could run this and see. And I still think you're not going to get exactly what we want, but let's just see it on the screen, and then I'm going to explain. So we come here, and now you see this button, but then it doesn't fit we're going for a black and white motif, right? This is blue, but it still works, but you can see it, right? You can see it here, and because you're putting it in the did finish launching with options in the app delegate, you can find it both on the reset page and the register page, right? It's the same one, but one thing we want to make sure that the word login is not next to it, right? And furthermore, I noticed that this word here is login. It shouldn't. This should be okay. We still need to, let's see. This is login rather than register, right? So what we need to do is we need to fix it. Let's go to the register page. Make sure this is register. Title here. This should be register. Okay. Just type it, register, then the here it's going to be register, right? Okay, that's going to be that. Let's just run it, make sure that it's as it should be. Of course, when you copy code, make sure that you check that you have made the required changes throughout, right? That's going to be, this is forgot your password. You see here, we're stuck at, oh yeah, reset is okay here. This is okay. But register, we have register here, and then we go back to login, right? So we want to get rid of this login, right? And let's get rid of the color first and then get rid of the login, right? So we come to the app delegate, and what we want here, after we set this, we want to set the rendering mode, right? So we could come here and say with tint color and the rendering mode, right? So the tint color here, we want the button to be black, right? So you say black rendering mode is going to be .always original, right? So we do this, run this, and we should get a result that is more pleasant to the eye. Come here, see this. Okay, we have the black button, works here. Come here, see this, we have the black button, but then we have this pesky word. Now, when you want to set the word, there are two ways you could do it. I'm going to show you the shorter and more elegant way. You could have a long function that you could put there, and I'm going to show you the more elegant way. What you do is you go to the page where the button is going to point to, right? So for example, if we come here and we run this, let me show you the page, right? So if we want to affect these two pages, both of them point to the login page, right? You come here, you see login, you come here, you see login, right? So what you do is you put this code on the login page, the page where the buttons are going to point back to, or where they go, you go from, right? Where you leave to get to that particular page, right? So we could affect both of them by going to the login controller, right? So where's the login controller? Let's just here it is, right? We still have very few pages. That is going to increase very fast, so get comfortable. What we want to do is we want to come to the login controller, and there's another method you could do this, but this one is more shorter, right? So we could come here and we say navigation item like so, and we're just going to say back button title, right? And we make this an empty string, right? So basically it's going to be an empty string. So since this is the page that they originate from, what we're going to do is we are going to, okay, let's just get it. Where is it? Right here it is, right? So we come here and then we're going to see this, right? Now we only have the button without the word, right? And if we come to the register, we only have the button without the word. So you can actually set the two of them from the same code on the login page will affect both of them, right? So that is done. Okay, let's continue. Now one thing you'll note is we're not yet going to start testing it on our device, right? We're going to move to our device when we get to things that we actually have to do in our device. But if you're testing on your device, you will notice something, right? So in this case, just pick the simulator, hit Command K like so, and you're going to get the, okay, you're meant to get the keyboard, right? So when we select this, right, we should get the hit Command K, right? You're going to get the keyboard, right? Now, when you type the email or the password and whatnot, we want the user to have the ability, after they finish typing, to type outside the text field and then dismiss the keyboard, right? So after you type this, and in this case, we could use our on-screen keyboard by coming here and saying blah, 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 like so. We hit return. After we hit return, you see our keyboard does not dismiss. So the advantage of using SwiftUI is that this comes naturally now, right? So we have to figure out how we can tell it to dismiss. And this is a problem that we face also in the forgot password and the register page. Now when you come back, you see the keyboard is here, right? So what we would like to do is that we want, when the user taps outside the text field, to dismiss the keyboard, right? It's very important functionality that we have to use, right? And because you're going to use it everywhere, you know what that means, right? It needs to be available to the view controllers. Let's do that. So we come to the extensions and we go to the view controllers, and at the end of the view controller, you're going to add a function, and this function is going to be called hides keyboard when tapped around, or give it some name that means something to you. This one just describes exactly what it does, right? So what it's going to do here is we're just going to say let's tap, and tap is going to be of type UI tap gesture recognizer. Tap gesture recognizer. What is that going to look like, right? This is going to be UI tap gesture recognizer, right? The target is going to be the self, like so. The action is going to be hashtag selector, like so. The Objective C method is going to be called something like dismiss keyboard, right? Dismiss keyboard. And after that, we're going to come here and we say what are we going to say? We're going to say tap dot cancels touches in view, and that's going to be false. Don't do that. Then we say view dot add gesture recognizer tap. So everywhere we call this, we're going to add the gesture recognizer tap. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to create that function called dismiss keyboard. Okay, so it's complaining that we don't have the dismiss keyboard functionality, right? How we do that is we just come here and we say Objective-C func, and this is going to be called dismiss. What do we dismiss? We dismiss the keyboard like so. So you do the dismiss of the keyboard like that. Come here, say view.end. What do we end? We end editing. This one requires a boolean true, like so, right? So we just pass in a boolean like that. And how do we use it? It's pretty straightforward. Come to the view, login controller like so. Come here and say hides keyboard when tapped around, right? Now that's going to be all we need to do to add that functionality, which is essential if you ask me, right? Okay, let's go try it out. Let's come to our login page. Let's hit Command K. Remember, if you can't see your keyboard, just hit Command K. You're going to see it on the screen. So we come here, and what do we do? So when we tap outside, let's tap outside the text field, right? Tap a few things, and then tap outside. Okay, fine. It's been dismissed. Okay, I'm typing on the keyboard. That's the problem. If you tap on your laptop's keyboard or your computer's keyboard, the physical keyboard, the digital keyboard on the screen that is simulating what it will look like on the phone is going to be dismissed, right? So let's just do that again. Let's come here, hit Command K, and we see our keyboard, right, when we select the text field, and then we tap a bunch. Oh, I'm forgetting, I'm doing it again. Sorry, it's more like instinct, right? So let's do it again. Keyboard, now type on the on-screen keyboard, right? So you come here and say, okay, now because you have said we hide the keyboard when we tap around, let's tap somewhere outside the text field. And we tap it, and you see it's immediately the cursor is dismissed and the keyboard is dismissed, right? So just by adding this functionality, by making it available to all view controllers, if we call this function from any view controller, this functionality will be added. So let's add it to the register controller and the what's it called, the forgot password, I believe, right? So we come here, copy this, come to the register controller, repeat the trick, come here, do this, right? And come here for the forgot password on the view did load, do that, right? Now we have added it to both of them. Let's test it, make sure that it's actually working the way we expect it to work. Come here, yes, get the forgot password like so. So let's try it out. Remember, use the online keyboard. I'm saying this for myself because I keep forgetting that. You see, you can type outside, it's dismissed, it works. Come here, let's go to the register, repeat the trick, and okay, keyboard comes, dismiss the keyboard, right? Does it work for the password? It also works. You can't see the password because of obviously on the screen, right? I have a screen recorder capturing this, so you won't be able to see it, right? So that is done. Go back, right? Let's try it here for the password also. So we know that this functionality works, right? So this functionality is going to be available for all our text fields now. All the text fields that are in UI view controllers, right? It's going to be available everywhere we need it, right? So that is basically that, and we can proceed from there. Okay, let's continue. Now, this is where we left the app, and the app is basically, it's functionally finished, right? So maybe just connecting the backend and stuff like that, right? This page rather, or this section. But what we could do is we could give it a bit of va-va-voom, right? Make it look a bit better, like animate stuff, right? Because everything just appears on the screen when you come here, right? What we'd like to do is we would like to make sure that we animate everything onto the screen, off the screen, make it look a bit prettier than it actually currently is, right? So that's what we want to do, and that's what we're going to do, right? Okay, so how we do it, right? Now, because there are going to be 3 pages that we're going to animate, right? We could only animate this stuff independently, then come to the register, do this independently, then come to the reset or register, do that independently. But since it's basically the same thing, and we programmers are meant to be lazy, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a view, a function of the view controllers that is going to be used to move our views, right? So we're going to create a function that is going to be available everywhere that we're just going to be calling, right? Then we're just going to be passing in values, right? We're going to be passing in the X and the Y axis so that we can displace it, tell it how to displace it. Then we're going to create another function that is going to animate it back to identity, right? So basically in animation, what you do is you remove it from the screen, then put it back on the screen. So if you do that, it's very common to remove something from the screen just before it appears, then move it into the screen, right? So if you do that, there's going to be a sort of, you animate, there's a function called animate to identity, right? So, or rather, there's a value that you could put to identity, like essentially when, as a matrix, to return it back to, it comes from mathematics where you just return it back to where it was, right? So you're going to create a function whose job is just going to be, after we move something off the screen, we want to bring it back to the screen, right? So that's the explanation. Let's come to extensions. It looks better when you're seeing it, right? So this view is going to be available on all our view controllers, this function rather. It's going to be called func, and it's going to be called move view, right? What it's going to take is it's going to take the x, and remember x needs to be a CG float, which is a core graphic float, and it's going to default to 0, right? So there's, in some cases, we're not going to be passing these values, right? So we're going to give defaults, right? Why? And you need to say it's going to be a CG float, right? Because if you put 0, it's going to assume that you mean that it's an integer. We don't want an integer, we want a CG float. So we put y is going to be that. Then alpha, so we want to, as you move into identity, we increase the alpha value. It's going to look a bit better. So it comes from being invisible, and as it's moving, it becomes more visible, visible, until it gets to the end where it's stopping, right? So basically that. So it's just it makes it look good, right? So that's why we're changing the alpha. So the alpha is going to be it's going to be CG float, right? We come here CG float. This is going to be 1, right? So we come here and we just say transform. Spell it correctly. Transform and transform. Okay, transform, and transform is going to be CG affine transform. Now affine transforms are basically parallel transforms, right? So basically like multiplying it to the matrix. So it's going to be, and we are going to be doing a lot of this, so don't worry if you don't see it, right? So translations are basically movements, right? A translation is a movement, right? We're not making it bigger, we're just moving it from point x to y. That's where you're passing in the x and the y coordinates, right? So this is going to be translation x, and the x is going to be the x that we pass in, the y is going to be the y that we pass in, right? And then the alpha is going to be self dot alpha, and this does not actually belong in the view controller, sorry, this belongs in the UI view, right? Because it's the view that we're animating, not the view controller. So let's cut this, I just realized that mistake, and go to the, I believe there's something for the UI view, right? So this belongs here, right? So self dot alp, let's just say alpha, and this is going to be the alpha value that you pass in, right? So that's going to be that, and this is going to be, the job of this is going to be pretty straightforward. Just move it off the view, right? So basically that. Should we see it in action? But it's going to be weird when we move it off the screen and then do nothing. Okay, we'll just do that, and then we'll see what how it works, and then we are going to move it off the screen, and then we're going to move it back in. So let's do that. Let's continue. Now, we could put the method to work, the method that we just created to work, but it's not going to show us anything, right? Because when we move it out of the screen, it's going to appear as being moved out of the screen, and we're not going to see anything. Let's just prove it. And how we will prove it is we're going to call this using a lifecycle method, which is going to be the view will appear, and then we're going to make it disappear it or move it off the screen with the view will appear. Then we're going to move it back on the screen with the view did appear, right? So let's just have a look, and we're going to say view will appear, right? Then call the super. Then we come here and we're going to take, let's do the password container view. Password container view. And now remember, it's an inverted Cartesian plane, right? So if you increase on X positively, you go to the right. Negatively, you go to the left. We've already seen that when we're putting stuff on the screen, right? Y same. If you want something to go up, you put negative, right? So you put negative Y. If you want it to go down, you put positive Y, right? Because you start at 0, 0 at the top left corner, and as you go down, you increase the Y, and as you go to the right, you increase the X. We have already gone over that. That should be a bit straightforward, right? So let's do this by coming here and we say dot move view, and the X, and because we put defaults, we only need to put, we can put one of them. So the X is going to be, let's put negative 400, right? So we decrease it. Okay, we move it by negative 400. Let's do that. Let's see this, stop it, run it. And if we do that with negative 400, okay, all right. Let's just see our phone. We're not going to see anything because you're not moving it back on the screen, right? So when you're moving it back from the screen, it's going to show which direction you sent it from, right? So you're going to see it in a bit. So what we want to do is we want to animate it to the identity, and identity is the location that we put it in the view did load, right? Where we are configuring the UI. So let's do that. And because you're going to use it everywhere, it's going to be exactly the same in the UI view, right? So this is going to be func. It's going to be called something like animate to identity. Like so, animate to identity. And what it's going to take, it's going to take a bunch of things. It's going to take the duration. The duration is going to be a time interval, right? It's going to be a time interval like so. Then you could choose a delay if you want. A delay is also going to be that. Then it's going to be a delay of a time interval, and we could make sure we want it to start immediately, so we're going to default the delay to 0, right? And also the alpha, you've seen us playing around with alpha, that's going to be 1, right? And then it's complaining that we do not have the curly braces. We have the curly braces now, right? So here we're just going to say UI view dot animate, and with duration, and for the duration is just going to be the duration that we pass in, comma, delay is going to be the delay, like so. And we could put a comma, we could hit tab, hit enter, and then we get into the closure, and we can just put the animation, right? And now what we're going to say is self dot transform, like so. And what are we going to transform it? There is an option for dot identity. That's why I would say it's called animated to identity, right? So there's an option of identity, that's the original location. So you just say self to transform to identity, right? And we come here and we say self dot alpha is going to be the alpha that is passed in, right? So that's basically it. Let's put it to self dot alpha reference alpha, and I wonder why it's complaining. Okay, self dot alpha, but we are passing in the alpha here, right? Alpha, okay, the alpha needs to be a CG flute, that's why it's complaining. Okay, I get it. You see why I was telling you to put a CG flute. If you say alpha is going to be 1, it's going to think that this is an integer. We don't want to use integer, we want to use core graphic flutes, right? So come to the alpha here, and that's why it's not picking this alpha as alpha. When you try to put alpha here, it checks and sees that alpha is going to be an integer rather than a CG flute, right? So it's seeing that you're giving me the wrong value. That's why it's not recognizing the code that we're typing, right? So what we need to do here is just come here and say okay, let's just type it, CG flute. So we do CG flute. Now when you say self.alpha.alpha, it's going to check that the type of alpha that we need is correct, right? So all our errors go away. And the next thing we need to do is we need to go back to our login controller. And what we want to do now is use another lifecycle method. And this one is going to be view did appear, which is going to be called after view will appear, right? So you just come here and type view did appear, call the super, like so, come here. And we're just going to say password container view, right? And this one is going to be dot animate to identity, right? And the duration is going to be 0.5, right? So let's see it now. Now we're going to see something, right? Now we are going to see it in action. Okay, let's come back here. And you see it slides in. So the reason we're moving it to the left, right, which is going to be -x, is we want to slide in from the left, right? So one thing you could do, you could enhance it more if you want it, right? You could say alpha is going to be 0. Then when you come here, you're going to set the alpha here is going to be 1, right? So let us do that. So it's going to, as it's coming to where it's supposed to be, it's going to become more vivid, more visible, right? I don't know if you can realize it, see it with the eye, right? So it's very subtle, it's very quick because it's half a second, but that's what's happening. Let's do it again. So yeah, so it's very quick, but that's what is happening, right? Now, because we can do that there, we can actually move any of them however we want, right? Now we just need to be calling, since we have this 2, we can just be calling this functionality there. Let's give ourselves more real estate and play around with them, right? So I'll leave you to play around with them. And what we want to do is we want to move the email container view in the opposite direction. So email container view is going to come to the opposite direction. So what do we do there? We say .move view, and the move view here, we want the X, but we want it to come from the right. So we say X is going to be, we displace it positively. So we say X is going to be 400. Then the alpha is going to be 0, right? So we do that. That's going to be done. Come here. What do we want to do? Password container view. no, email container view. We want to animate to identity. Animate to identity, like so. Duration. What's the duration? Probably should be the same, right? 0.5. Maybe make it arrive after it. You don't want them all to arrive like killer robots at the same time, right? So what you want to do, we want to put in a delay, right? That's why we put in delay, and this one is going to be a slight delay, 0.1, so that one arrives, then the other one just comes in, right? So it looks a bit cooler if you do it like that, or at least I think it looks a bit cooler. Maybe you don't. Okay, let's see it in practice. This is what it looks like, right? So let's come here. You see, this one arrives, then this one arrives at a tenth of a second later. Let's try it again. Right? So let's see it, and there, right? So that's how you do it. Now let's do the same for the button, right? Now for the button, we want to displace it by Y, right? So let's come here, and I'm going to ask you, if we want it to come from up, what do we do, right? Try. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to try this. Move the login button from above, right? It's basically the same thing, except you're dealing with the Y-axis rather than the X-axis. So try it out. I'm going to give you 5 seconds, then I'm going to do it. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me show you how I would do it, right? So we come here and we say move view, like so, move view, and here we want the Y, right? The Y is going to be 100, like so, and then we say alpha is going to be 0, right? Come here, do this, say this is going to be the login button, and what we want to the login button is what do we do? Let's .animate to identity. The duration is going to be 0.5. The delay is going to be 0.3, right? So let us see it in action. Run this. Hopefully it works, right? Come here and you see it. Wow, it's slightly a bit later. Okay, perfect, right? So now we have a bit of animation. I'm going to let you to decide how you're going to animate. Sign in with Apple and the Google sign in, right? Those are going to be you. Make them pretty, right? And if you're in my group, you could send me maybe, if you're in the group, just send me a link to a GIF. Make a GIF of how you animated the sign in with Google and sign in with Apple. I'm going to leave them to you. Right? Let's continue. Now, what we're going to do next is we would like to animate using Spring, right? We're going to add Spring functionality to the animation, right? So what that looks like is pretty straightforward. We could come here and say func, and we say animate with Spring, like so. Animate with Spring, and it's going to have a lot of this. A lot of this is going to look a lot like this, right? So it's going to have a duration, a delay, and an alpha, right? That's going to look exactly like this. So we come here, copy, like so. Come here, paste. That's going to be that, right? And what do we want next? Okay, right? That's going to be that. Then after that, we need a few more things. We need spring damping. Now the spring damping, the values, as you get closer to 0, it gets a bit bouncier, right? So the closer to 0 you are, the more bouncier. The initial velocity of 1 means that the animation will cover the entire distance it's supposed to cover in 1 second, right? So those are the two things that are different, right? So let's come here and we say comma, and what you're going to have is initial velocity, and remember the initial velocity, the value of 1 means that it will cover the distance it's supposed to cover in 1 second, right? Initial velocity is going to be a CG float, choreographic float, like so. Then what else do we need? We need the spring damping, which is also spring damping. The spring damping is going to be a CG float, right? So we have CG float here. And what we want to do is it's going to be exactly the same as this. It's just going to add bounciness, right? So, okay, no. We come here and we say UI view dot animate with, yes, with all these many options. So the duration is going to be the duration. The delay is going to be the delay. The using spring damping is going to be the spring damping. The initial velocity is going to be the initial velocity. The animation is going to be that. And what we're going to do here is just say self.transform identity, copy this like so, copy, come here, paste it there like so, right? So that is going to be more or less done, right? I wonder why we have 7 errors, right? Okay, we seem to have done that, right? Okay, let's just do that, and maybe our errors go away. Okay, fine, our errors now go away, right? So we have sorted them out. Now what we want to do is we might want to, let's do it for the login button. Let's make sure that the login button, instead of animating it to identity, let's animate it to the spring so that you can see what that looks like, and then hopefully we could do it for the rest, right? So what we're going to do is come here and say login button dot animate with spring, right? With the duration is going to be 0.5 like so. The initial velocity is going to be 0, and remember the initial velocity I'm going to say is the time that it takes to cover the distance in 1 second, right? The spring dumping is going to be 0.5, right? And a spring dumping, the closer the value is to 0, the bouncier you get, right? Initial velocity, let's say initial velocity, what do you want it? Let's say 0.5. Spring dumping, picking this values, good values is hard. Spring dumping, let's also make it 0.5 like so. Delay is going to be 0.4, right? Then we put a comma here. Is that the order? Okay, fine, that's the order, right? So let's put this to work, right? Stop, run, see whether it works the way we want it to work, right? Let's see it. So let's come here. Okay, you see the button comes with a bit of a spring. Let's increase this spring velocity to 0, right? Or decrease it to 0. Stop it, run it, see it, right? Okay, that's that, right? So play around with the values until you find something you like, right? Now one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the exact same values, maybe do it in the opposite direction, right? I'm going to come here, copy this too, because they're exactly the same. Those are the only things we need. Go to the register controller. After the view did load here, paste that there, right? So we have those two there, and it's not called a login button now, but it's called I believe a register button. And here what we want is going to be 400 here, and then negative 400 here, and then negative 100 here, right? The rest is going to be the same, right? Cannot find login button. Okay, this is going to be called the register button, right? Register button. So let's try it out for size, make sure everything is working as it should. Okay, come here, that's going to be the register, come here, and that's going to be that, slightly different, right? Come here, there, right? So that's what it's going to look like. Now for the forgot password, I probably should leave it to you. You figure out how you're going to do it. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Let me give you 5 seconds to figure it out. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Or 1. I don't know how you say 1 in Spanish. Let's go to forgot password, right? After the view did load, come here. Paste that. We have an email container view. We don't have a password container view. Get rid of this. Is a button called register button. What's the button called? The button is called the forgot button, right? So come here, figure that out. Let's go to the forgot button, right? And this is going to be called the forgot button. And we don't have a password for the email, so we do that, right? So you play around with the figures until you find something you like. Try it out for size. And okay, come here, that's going to be that. Come here. Okay, so that's everything we want, and we could play around with the values until we find something that we actually like. You could even set we're already setting the alpha to 0 so that it can become more visible as we go along, right? So that is that, and I'm wondering whether there's anything else we need to do. That is that. Let's proceed from there. Now, what we want to do is we would like to add animation to make the button shake whenever a user enters the wrong input, right? So for example, if they enter a wrong email and they try to like send it the button is going to shake. We're already using animation in a bunch of places. We're making our button more clickier using the configuration handler. Our auth buttons more clickier like that. We are also animating the text fields and the buttons onto the screen, right? So we could add this, and the next thing to do is we're going to give the button a sort of shake animation, right? So let's do that. And how we do that is the very first thing, we want to make this shake animation extendable, right? We don't want it just to be for the button. We might want to use it somewhere else. Maybe somewhere else we want to tell the user that they have made a mistake or they have done something wrong, so we're going to shake it a bit. Like I'm thinking maybe when we get to the cards and you're trying to swipe a card and you don't have any more swipes for the particular day, what we could do is we could convey this to the user by adding a bit of a shake animation, right? So that's the whole point of the shake animation, is to provide that visual feedback, right? It's a sort of micro interaction. Let's do that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to, because we want to be able to use it all places, you know what that means, right? We need to put it in our extension. But first, we could create an enum here. And the enum is going to be called shake direction. And it's going to have two options. It's going to have case horizontal. And case horizontal is exactly what you think it is. Case vertical. So you're going to have an option of either shaking the button horizontally if the user enters something that you don't like a wrong input. We could shake it either horizontally or vertically. I think there is more use for horizontal shaking, although you could also use vertical shaking if you want, whichever you prefer, right? Now let's continue. Let's create this function, and we want this function on every single view, right? So you could come to extensions, and in our view here, let's go to almost the bottom here, give ourselves a bit more real estate. And what we'd like to do is come here and we say func. It's going to be called shake. And what shake is going to do, it's going to take a direction. And what is the direction going to be? Direction is going to be shake direction from the enum, right? So you're going to tell it whether it's up or down or left to right? And we also want a default, right? We want default to be horizontal, because most of the time we're going to be doing horizontal shaking, let's be honest, right? But you might want to do something else with it, right? Then we want the duration, and the duration is going to be time interval, right? And we are going to default it to 1, which is going to be a second. Then we're going to have a completion. And what the completion is going to do, the completion is essentially, this is going to be an optional closure that gets called when the animation finishes, right? So for example, when you finish an animation, we want to have maybe an alert that tells the user that something is wrong, your password, your email, your whatever is wrong, right? So that's what we're going to do with that, right? So for this completion, what you're going to have is going to be completion, like so. Come here, do that. And then we just want to do, and then it's going to be void, like so. And what it's going to do is we want it to be optional, right? And then we can put our code here, right? Now, the next thing to do is we are going to have the CA transaction, right? This starts a new animation transaction where we can group all animations, because our animation is going to be made up of either moving to the left, it's going to be left, right, left, right, left, right, right? That's how you create the shaking animation, right? So left, right, left, right, left, right, right? So that's going to be that. So what you're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to say core animation transaction, like so. And we want to say dot begin, like so. Then we're going to say let animation, and this is going to be CA key frame animation, right? And then we're going to have two options. We're going to say switch, and it's going to be dependent on the direction, because we have two. Let's give the one that is going to give us returns, right? So case horizontal, do this. Case vertical, do that, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to come to horizontal. What do we want to do with horizontal? We want to come here and we say animation, and the animation here is going to be CA keyframe animation, and the key path here. So when you go horizontally, what do? We're basically translating it on the x-axis, right? We're moving it on the x-axis. So the path is going to be, the key path rather, is going to be transform.translation. We have already seen translation .x, right? And what about vertical? I'm going to let you think about how would we put vertical. Well, it's obvious. It's going to be the exact same thing, but translation on the y-axis, right? So what we do here is we say animation, case vertical. Animation is going to be core animation, key animation. The key path we're interested in is going to be transform dot translation dot y, right? So that's going to be exactly what you think it is, right? Now we're going to have the transaction set block, and then to it we're going to pass the completion. So let's come here and we say ca transaction dot set completion block, and that's going to be the completion if we have a completion. In the first case, where we're going to have is we're going to create a custom alert, right? Later on we're going to create a custom alert, and that's what it's going to be called from our from our completion, right? Then we're going to come here and we say animation dot duration, and this is going to be the duration. Then we're going to say animation dot timing function like so. This is going to be ca media timing function, and the name is going to be, the type of animation is going to be ease in something, right? So we say dot ease in ease out, right? That's the one I normally like using. And now the next thing we want to have is going to be the animation value. Now we're forgetting to put an equals here where we're telling it about the completion, and this is going to be nil just in case you don't have a completion, we just want to shake something, right? So that we don't have to always do that, right? So we have the complete we have that there. And the next thing we need to do is we would like to put in our animation values, right? So after this, we could come here and we say animation values, animation.values, and this is going to be an array, right? So what we need for it to move like either laterally or vertically, what we want to do is we're going to increase the value, like, you know, the inverted Cartesian plane that we normally use, right? So it's going to be negative, positive with a decreasing a decreasing amplitude of the movement, right? So if we create this back and forth translation of putting it -30 then +30, it will move to the left and then the left and the right, like so on and so forth. And then you're going to decrease the amplitude until we come finally to 0, where it comes to a standing to a stop, right? So let's do that. So now in our array, we're going to say -25, then we're going to make it to move to 25. So that's going to be left, right by 25. Then we repeat it. We say -25, then we say 25, right? Then after that, we say -15, then 15. Then after that we say -10, then 10. And you might be wondering, why are we starting with the left and the right? I don't know. You could pick either one you want, right? There is no particular reason, right? Then -5 and 5, and finally 0. Now 0 is where it comes to a stop, right? So that's by moving left, right like that, you simulate motion, right? The shaking motion, right? So we're going to have that animation value, and then now we need to add it to the layer, right? This just adds the animation to the views layer, and when we say nil in the key, we replace any existing animation that has the same property, right? So essentially, if we had called it twice, right? So it's just good practice to do, right? So let us do that, right? So we come here and we say the transaction. First we need to do the transaction commit, and for that we just commit the animation transaction starting the shaking, right? That's basically what we're doing, right? So we have the transaction has begun, and now just want to commit it by making it shake, right? So we say okay, ca transaction like so, and then we go and come here and we say commit like so, right? So that's going to commit, and now we need to add it to the layer, like I've already explained that. Add, and what do we want to add? The animation, which is going to be a ca animation, and we created that at the top here, ca key animation, right? So the key, you can put various frames, right? That's what we did with the values, right? So we just come and we say the animation is called animation, and the key is going to be nil, right? So that you can replace any existing ones that are there, right? And the commit should be after we put it on the view, right? So this needs to come here, and then needs to be there, right? So we basically commit our transaction, and that's going to be that. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to come to our login controller, where we're going to put it to work. So let's come to our login controller, and what do we do in our login controller? We're going to create a function. Let's create it above the Objective-C functions, right? And what this function is going to do is it's just going to check whether or not the form is valid, right? So we're going to come here and say func form valid, or you could give it a name that is somehow meaningful to you. And what this is going to do is it's going to return a boolean, right? And our check is going to be pretty easy, right? You could make it more by using regex. You could make it a bit more complex, but we're not going to do that, right? So for us, for our email, we are going to check that the email has an @ and it's a requirement of of Firebase that the password has at least 6 characters. So those are the two things you're going to check. If your email has an @ we're going to allow you to log in, an @ and in this case with the login controller, we also check that the password is at least 6 characters, right? Let's do that. So we come here and we say God let email text, and this is going to be email text field, and then we get the text from there. That's going to be the text, and we say else return false, right? So if somebody tries to press the button and they have not typed anything to the email text field, return false, then shake. Then we're going to call the shake on our button, right? So that we can alert them, and then after we create the alert, we're going to show them the alert, right? So that's what that does. And we also need to do the same for the password. So that's going to be God let password text. Let's make it the same. It's going to be password text field dot text else return false. Now what that does is if you have entered the email but have not entered the password and you hit that, just return false, right? If there is no text on the password text, what's it called? The password text field, right? Just return false, right? And then we come here and we say if email text dot trimming characters in, and we just want dot white spaces like so. And what we want to do basically here, just get rid of the white spaces, check if it contains, what do we want to contain? It contains an @ right? So our email, just as long as our email has an @ and okay, and what do? We say password text like so dot count like I said, Firebase, we are saving somebody a message back from Firebase. If you try to create a password or you try to, we're not creating a password here. We're actually doing the creation of the password in the register field. But if they're trying to enter a password which is less than 5 characters, we know that Firebase has a requirement of at least 6 characters. So we are saving them a call to Firebase. We're essentially saving their data, right? So that's why we're doing this. This one, of course, would make a lot more sense in when we put it in the register, when you're registering, right? But we're going to save them that information, right? That call from Firebase, because we know an error is definitely going to come because you can't create a password that has a count of less than 6, and if they're entering that, that means they've made a mistake somewhere, right? So the count should be greater or equal to 6, right? And if it's greater than equal to 6, we just return true, right? So that's basically that. Else, if this is not the case, right, if you don't have an @ after you trim the text and your password is less than 6, what we need to do here is return false, right? So that's basically our form valid, right? That is there. The next thing we need to do is, let's see. What we need to do, we need to call this function and check whether the form is valid, right? So what we need to do is in the handle sign in, which is called, I believe, by the button. It's called it's the handle sign in, right? Let's see, handle. Okay, handle forgot. Okay, there are a bunch of handle sign in. Yes, it's the login button does the handle sign in, right? So what we want to do here is just come here and we say if form valid, right? What we want to do is come here and we just say print, and what we want to say here is going to be print valid, like so, right? Else, what we're going to do here is just call in the login button and shake it, right? Dot shake, right? So for now, we're going to pass nothing into it, right? Let's just see it in practice, and then after we see it, we can proceed from there. Okay, give it a second. Let's see. This is what it's going to do, and right. Okay, it's taking its sweet time. It's taking its sweet time. Coming from a standing start, I just tried it out. So we have written a lot of code and then we're testing it, right? We should probably test it incrementally, but yeah. So have the form valid, try and see it now. Okay, I'm starting to think whether there's an issue. Okay, there, right? So let's come here and let's hit this. And you can see the shaking, right? See the shaking, right? So that is that. Let's make it direction. The direction is going to be dot vertical. Let's make it vertical and see what that looks like. It's going to be a bit worse in my opinion, a bit junkier. It's going to look unnatural. That's what I mean, right? So let's do this. Okay. So you could do that like so. I'm going to just leave it as vertical, right? So that is the case. Save it, run it, and then now let's check whether it works, right? So let's come here and redo this, right? So if we, okay, for some reason I can't. I'm trying to type on it to. Okay, fine. There. Let's try and say at. We have a character here, and we try to do this. It shakes, so it's not valid, right? Let's put the at symbol. Try to hit this. It still shakes. Let's put 4. That's less than 6. Try running this. Still shake. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So we have 6 like so. Hit that and there we get valid, right? So you see, this is running. It's checking this. It's returning true, and then it's printing valid, right? So we now know that we have a sort of rudimentary check that gives us like visual feedback when we do not enter the correct password or whatever, right? So what we could do next is we could make this available to 2 more places. We need to make it available to the register controller and the, what's the other one called? The register controller and the forgot password controller, right? So what we want to do here is just come here and say form valid like so. Copy, come here, forgot password like so. What do we do here? Forgot password, okay. Forgot password, okay. Let's come here and the forgot password only has 1, right? So let's paste this here like so. So the form valid here, there's no password, so we need to just get rid of this, right? And we need to get rid of the and. So this part doesn't exist. So now we just have if it contains the at character, we return true. Else we return false, right? So that's that, right? The next thing we need to do is let's go back to the login controller, and what we want to do is we want to copy this, right? Copy like so. Handle sign in. Let's go to the forgot password. Let's do. It's called handle sign in, right? Probably not, right? And it's not the login button. So this should be. We should refactor and rename. This is going to be handle forget, right? Come here and we say handle forget, because wait, we're using it in multiple places. Let's cancel renaming it, because in different places it should have different names, right? So we should only rename the ones that are on this page, right? So this should be handle forget like so, and then we come here and we say handle forget, right? Forget like so, right? Then the button is not called the login button. What's the button called? The button is called the button is called the forgot whatever it's called, right? Come here, say forgot button, right? So that is sorted, right? And now we could test it the same. Let's run this, try it for the forgot password. Okay, let's go to the forgot password. Come here, do this, come to the forgot your password like so. Hit this, it's gonna shake, doesn't work. Put an at, try it, it prints valid, right? We do the same for the, let's go back to the login controller. Let's get this like so, and get that and copy like so, and that's going to be the register controller, right? So this should be in the register controller, I believe. Yeah, so let's come here, paste that, and this one is going to have an email and a text field, so it's going to work exactly as it should, right? Now the handle sign in, this should be handle register, right? So let's come here, and instead of handle sign in, we should make this handle register like so, right? Come here, make it handle register, right? Handle register like so. And the next thing, instead of printing 1 2 3, we need to come to the login controller, right? And what we want is to check if the form is valid, right? Come here, copy forgot password handle, we're in the register, right? Come here. That is going to be that, and it's not called a login button, of course. Here, what do we call it? Probably call it the register button. Register button, right? So we need to change it to make sure that this is the register button, right? So we put the register button. That's going to be that. What's the next thing we need to do? Let's see. What's it going to be? Yeah, I think this is okay, right? We could just come here and run this. Let's run this, make sure everything is as it should be on the register screen, and then afterwards maybe let's do the alert, and then we can end this section, right? Okay, so come to register. That comes up. Hit this, it shakes. Try with at. Hit this, it shakes. Try with 5 characters. 1 2 3 4 5. Hit it, shake. 6. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Hit this, valid, right? So it works, right? So now we have our shake animation all through our various buttons, and you could also apply it to, since it works on all views. Do it on the text field if you want, do it on the password text field if you want, and so on and so forth. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to have a reusable alert that we can call wherever there's an error message, like after we shake the button, we, in the completion handler, we should like pass in like a function that, let's say, calls the alert or something of the sort, right? So let's do that. And since the alert is going to be used everywhere, you know by now what you're supposed to do. We are supposed to go to the view controller. This one is UI view, right? So we're going to have the extensions on the view controller, and this one. And we need to go to the very bottom. And now what we are going to do is we're going to say func alert. It's going to have a title, and the title is going to be titles. It's going to be a string, or if you call it titlet, make sure you keep calling it that. The title is going to be a string. Then it's going to have a message. Message is also going to be a string, like so. And what this is going to be, it's going to be let's alert controller, and the alert controller is going to be UI alert controller, and it's going to have a title, a message, and a preferred style. The title is going to be the title we pass in, the title. The message is going to be the title is going to be that. The message is going to be that. The preferred style is going to be .alert. We want it as an alert. Then we're going to come in and say let action, and action is just going to be UI alert action. Title is going to be OK, and style is going to be .default. Not destructive. If you make it destructive, it's going to be red, right? So then we need to come here and we say alert controller dot add action, and the action is going to be that. Then we're going to say self dot present. What do we want to present? We want to present the alert controller, and animation is always good, so we say true. So that is done. That is done, right? Now we need to figure out a place we're going to call this. Let's do it. Come to the login controller, and what we want to do here is just call something like func let's see, what we'd like to do here is just call the printer. If form is valid, right, we could come in and just say something like printer. We could printer. For now we're going to do this, then we're going to we could create one alert that we could use in several places, right? So for now we just want to see it on the screen, then we'll figure it out how we're going to use the alert. When we actually come to connecting to Firebase, we're going to have more options, right? So now this is going to be this is going to be alert, like so. The title is going to be, what's the title going to be? It's going to be error, like so. The message is going to be the wrong credentials. Okay, so let us do this, right? We could call this, instead of printer, we could call it something like let's say error alert, right? Then we come here and we say error alert, like so, right? So we call that, and let's do that, right? So let's run it. After it shakes, it's going to come and say wrong credentials. Okay. Wrong credentials. Okay, right? So we could do that. What we could do here is we could copy this. Copy. Do it for the register. Do it for the register. Come to the register. Do this. Paste it here. Come here. Say this is going to be completion, like so. This is going to be error alert, right? That is done. And let's also do it for the, while we're at it, for the forgot password, right? Come here, paste it here. Wrong credentials, come here, say completion. Then we're going to have error alert, right? Now if we run this, we can test our the two places, right? Come here, hit this, error alert, wrong credentials. Come here, hit this, error alert, wrong credentials. If you put the right thing, hit this, you're going to get valid here. That means it works. Come here, register, try hitting it. Error, wrong credentials, right? Hit OK, and that's it, right? Now we have at least a reusable error alert. And the reason I'm not going to put it the same everywhere is because, well, we could actually do that. But let's think about it when we connect it to Firebase, because we need to figure out how we are going to show it. Or we could actually create it on the view controller, right? We could put this error alert on the view controller, right? We put this on the view controller. Then here, we just call that particular function, right? Because it's going to be available for all our views, right? So let's leave it for something that we'll do when we actually connect it to Firebase, right? So that's basically it. And I think we're done with this section.